Because like when you first bring it in, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just fill up a cup and take it over there. And then when your plant starts getting bigger and you have to fill up your cup 8 times and you're like, why did I bring this in here? Just think about that.
Hi, welcome to Lilies and Tomatoes, your go-to place for simple and practical tips and tricks on how to start a garden all the way through how to use what you grow. This is from my live class that I teach on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on Facebook. If you'd like to attend a live class or ask me a question, check out the link in the description.
Hello. Welcome back to my basement workshop. Today we're going to be talking about bringing some of your garden back inside. So you had your garden outside, you've done the full spring, summer, you're prepping for fall, but some of those plants you're going to want to preserve and bring them back into your house for the winter time. And we're going to talk about the 7 things you need to think about when setting up your space for those plants, and 5 things you need to think about when choosing those plants. If we have not met yet, my name is Quincy Adams, and I want to help you grow some of your own food in a small space on a budget. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to think about is space. Do you have space to bring in these plants? And by space, I don't just mean you're going to stick it on some table. You need to also make sure that you've got the right environment for it. And you also need to be thinking about, do you have pets? Do you have small children? Are they going to mess with your plant? So you want to make sure you're putting in an area that's safe from all of your other family members, if you know what I mean. The second thing you want to think about is light. So are you going to be relying on light from outside, getting it through a window? Do you need grow lights? Do you need to set those up? Do you need to build something to set up your grow lights? Do you need to clip it to something for your grow lights? You need to start thinking about that before you dig up anything and bring it back inside. The third thing you want to think about is fruiting plants need to be pollinated. So if one of the plants you're thinking about bringing in is a tomato or a pepper, then you want to make sure that you have a plan for pollinating it. Otherwise, you're not going to get any fruit from it. So that can be done easily with a makeup brush or a paintbrush, or with tomatoes, all you have to do is tap on the top of the flowers. But you need to think about that and make sure that you're doing it during the time that they're growing. And all of these things we'll get into more detail later as it's time to actually start bringing plants inside. The fourth thing you need to think about is humidity. Inside in the wintertime, it gets dry. You guys know if you've ever gotten static shock during the wintertime, it means the air is really, really dry. If you get shocked from walking across the carpet, from petting your pets, then you need more humidity in the air. So if you do not have like a humidifier on your furnace, then you need to think about getting a humidifier. If you guys have Aldi's, that's where I got mine last year. Like it was like $20, impulse buy, but definitely needed it. And just from my own personal experience, like I used to always try to grow citrus trees. I have them now, and they're like doing okay, but like they would always die in the late winter, and I didn't know why. And it took me years to figure out it was the lack of humidity inside. So like the leaves would start falling off and I would start watering it more, but it wasn't enough. So I was overwatering it. It was too dry from the dry air. And I just kept killing them every year for like 4 years in a row before I figured it out. And then I was like, oh, it's the humidity. I bought a humidifier and then I put a greenhouse on my deck and I left them outside and they did better. So just think about that. The fifth thing you want to think about is the temperature inside. So are you the kind of person who likes to turn it into Florida inside in the wintertime and have it always be close to 80 degrees? Or are you the kind of person who wants to be frugal and wants to keep it down closer to 65? You want to make sure that you are creating a temperature environment for your plant that is the ideal situation that it's going to be in. So if you've got a tomato and you like to keep it 65 and chilly inside, the tomato's not going to do super well because the tomato likes warmer weather. So just think about that. But don't put it directly in front of like a furnace or something, because the hot air blowing on it is not gonna be good. So just think about those things. And was that 6? I'm sorry. Oh no. Number 6. 6 is water. Make sure you have a plan for watering. Because like when you first bring it in, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just fill up a cup and take it over there. And then when your plant starts getting bigger and you have to fill up your cup 8 times and you're like, why did I bring this in here? Just think about that. Like your plant is going to keep on growing because outside it's winter. In the winter, all your plants, the plants are going to slow down their growth, or they're not going to grow at all, or they're going to die. Inside, it's still going to be spring or summer for your plant. So it's going to keep on growing. So you need to make sure that you have a plan for watering it. And the seventh thing that you want to think about when deciding whether or not to bring plants inside is like, is this something that you're going to be putting out during the day and bringing in at night? Do you have a plan for that? Don't make it an accident, because you leave it out too long one time and it's going to die. Also think about, like, is this something that needs to be outside? Or needs to be like, does it need a breeze? Do you need to set up a fan? Like, sometimes to create the outside environment inside for a plant requires a little bit of maintenance. So a low maintenance plant outside turns into a high maintenance plant inside. So just think about those kinds of things. Like, I'll give you an example for a plant that needs a fan. I have aero gardens and smart gardens. So I like to grow a lot of leafy greens inside in the wintertime. But that means that they're not getting the benefit of the breeze. And when they don't have the benefit of the breeze, it changes the texture of the greens. So when you're growing like a leafy green outside, that's going to be all nice and crispy. It's going to be kind of limp inside if you don't like get a fan and set it up so it replicates the breeze. So just think about that. There's like, sometimes there's a little extra thing that you need to do for your plants. All right, so now the 5 things you need to think about when choosing which plants you're going to bring inside are: 1, make it easy. Think about bringing in some herbs. Herbs will grow. They don't need a whole lot of light. They're generally okay with the light that comes through the window, or like just the lights in your house, depending on what kind of herb you get. So herbs tend to be low maintenance. That's a good candidate for something to bring inside, and then you can have fresh herbs all spring or all winter long. 2, the second thing to think about, if you're going to bring in some high maintenance plants like a tomato or a pepper or an eggplant, like, only bring in 1 of each, because that's just going to lower the amount of hassle that you have to go through to keep the plants alive, to keep them fed, to keep them watered, to keep them pollinated. Just think about that. The third thing is think about garden tech. I just mentioned aero gardens and smart gardens a minute ago. Think about what plants you could grow in something like that, so you don't have to worry about dirt being all over the place, or it just keeps everything contained. They come with their own fertilizer if it needs fertilizer. Smart gardens don't need fertilizer. Aero gardens come with fertilizer. So something that you can grow in a compact area that's going to have its own light, and then you can share that light with some other plants around it. That's a good choice to think. That's something you want to think about and start budgeting for, because I know that those can be a little bit pricey, but in the long run, those machines do last a long time. I've had one since 2008. All right, so the 4th thing that you want to think about when choosing your plants to bring inside, think about your trees. Did you plant your trees in the ground? If you got trees in a container, just bring the container in. I usually like to put my bigger trees on dollies, and just any heavy plant goes on a little dolly, and then I can roll it inside if it needs to come inside, or roll it into a greenhouse. But and think about a little bit, like a tree that is going to be okay in your zone over the winter in the ground. You want to make sure that you're considering it, that if it's in the container, then it's not going to be okay just outside. So say you've got something like ginger. Ginger is generally okay in the ground in zone 7. So if you leave some of it in the ground, the next year it'll come up and it'll be fine. But if you're growing it in a container, and I realize that ginger is not a tree, but if you're growing it in a container is not going to have as much soil, and it's not going to have the protection of that huge mass of soil in order to protect the plant. So if you've got something that's borderline, and it's in a container, then you might want to bring that inside. Or if you're leaving it outside, make sure you mulch it very heavily and just protect it, because it may not be okay. And the 5th thing to think about when choosing your plants to come inside is, do you have any really rare crops? If you've got something like, I just got some purple tree collards that I've got some cuttings and I'm trying to keep them alive, something like that, they probably won't go outside before the winter, because they need to set some roots. But if I had them outside in a container, then I would want you to bring them inside, because I want to make sure that they don't die. There's like a chance they could survive because it's borderline in 7B, but I wouldn't want to take that chance with something that rare. So like my moringa, those are coming inside, and we need to make some space for them. But those can stay outside. They're not going to survive the 7B climate over the winter in a container. If they were in a pot, or if they were in the ground, then I would mulch them. But in a pot, they come inside. So that's 5 things to think about when choosing your plants to come inside, and 7 things to think about if you want to bring a plant inside. Is that a question? We messed up by planting a bunch of runner plants in a small enclosure. Yeah, but you can separate some of those out and maybe save some of them. Melons. Oh, okay. Well, I would probably not try to do a full melon inside over the winter time, but you can try it if you got the space. So let me recap real quick the 7 things to think about when deciding whether or not to bring plants inside, and the 5 things to think about when choosing the plants to come inside. So choosing if you're going to bring plants in. 1, do you have the space? 2, do you have enough light for that plant? 3, do you have a plan for watering that plant? 4, do you have a plan for keeping humidity up to protect that plant? 5, are you going to provide the adequate temperatures that plant needs to thrive? 6, do you have a plan to hand pollinate that plant? And 7, what are you going to be putting it out during the day and bringing it back inside? And do you have a plan for that? Now, the 5 things you want to think about when choosing your plants: 1, choose herbs because they're low maintenance. 2, if you're going to do high maintenance plants, only do 1. So if you're going to go with the melon, then I would only go with 1. If you can separate it out, that would be a cool experiment, and I would love to see pictures if you decide to do that. 3, think about garden tech. Aero gardens and smart gardens. I have them both. I love them both. They're a great way to do some plants inside in the wintertime, and then do some summers, like during the summer, you can do things that it's too hot outside to do. So I'm pretty much always growing some kind of leafy greens in mine when they're on. All right. 4, think about your trees or any other like high maintenance plant that you might want to protect if it's not going to survive the environment. And 5, think about your rare crops. So if you've got something unusual in a pot that may or may not survive your zone, just bring it inside and don't take the chance. Are there any other questions? I know that was a little bit fast. We will go through these more and more as it comes time, and I will show you some of the things that I'm bringing inside because I'm a hot mess gardener, and I did not get all of my stuff planted because of unfinished projects and an impromptu decision to expand my garden in the middle of the summer because I did not see any kind of effort made to fix the supply chain issues that were identified at the beginning of the COVID shenanigans. So I was like, let me just go get 40 extra fabric pots and plant some more stuff because just in case. So we're going to be doing this a couple times. This is going to be an ongoing thing, just like the fall garden. And then we will roll right into when to start your spring garden in the wintertime. So if you have any questions, let me know. If I don't see them while I'm still live, then I'll answer them when I get to them. I always answer questions. I do my best to do it within 24 hours. But if you've asked me a question and you don't see an answer, hit me up, send me a message through my page because I definitely see those. Is that another question? You sound like a pro. I am definitely not a pro. You've been to my house, you know I'm not a pro. I'm just an enthusiastic dabbler, and I've been at it for a while, and I refuse to give up. So any other questions before we go for tonight? All right. I don't see any other questions, but we're going to keep on talking about this because I really, really, really want you guys to start something. It doesn't have to be a big garden. You don't have to love gardening, but one of the things that gardening does is it protects you a little bit from food insecurity, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. So just put some herbs in a pot, and even if you're only adding like a little snip to your whatever you're cooking, it's something that you grew, and it tastes so much better when you grow it yourself. So that's all for tonight. On Saturday we're gonna see one of my new garden toys that I'm just getting set up now. So new stuff on Saturday, and I will see you guys in a couple days. It happens one day at a time. Exactly, it does. You become an expert one day at a time. You grow your garden one day at a time. You become an expert one day at a time. But gardening is one of those things where you can be at it for 20 years and there's always something new. There's more things, there's more technology, and there's more things to learn. So be patient and have a little grace with yourself and enjoy the ride. Have a good night. Bye.